The Cheater Wife. Chapter 1. The Quiet Before the Storm. Anna sat at the kitchen table, her fingers tracing the rim of her coffee cup as she stared out the window. The early morning sunlight filtered softly through the curtains, casting a golden glow over the small, neat house she shared with her husband, David. Everything looked perfect, just as it always did. But inside Anna, a storm was quietly brewing. For years, Anna and David had built a life that many envied, a cozy home, 2 kids, and a steady rhythm that seemed unbreakable. Yet beneath the surface, something was slowly unraveling, something neither of them dared to face. Anna's thoughts drifted back to the night before. She had come home late, the faint scent of perfume still lingering on her clothes. David hadn't asked where she was. He never did anymore. The silence between them had grown thick, heavy with unspoken questions and hidden truths. As she took a sip of coffee, Anna's phone buzzed on the table. A message from Mark, the name that David never knew, a name that meant everything and nothing all at once. "Can we meet tonight? We need to talk." Her heart tightened. How did it come to this? How did she become the woman who hid secrets in the shadows of her own marriage? Chapter 2. Secrets in the Dark. The house was silent except for the soft ticking of the clock. David was at work, or so Anna told herself. Sometimes she wondered if he ever really noticed the changes, the distance growing between them like a slow crack in the foundation of their life. Anna's fingers trembled as she typed back to Mark. Tonight, same place. The message sent, and she felt a mixture of guilt and relief swirl inside her. Mark was the escape she never planned for, the danger she never wanted to admit. That evening, Anna slipped out after the kids were asleep. The streets were dark and empty, mirroring the cold emptiness she felt inside. When she reached the small cafe where they had agreed to meet, Mark was already there, waiting with a tense smile. "You shouldn't be doing this," Anna whispered, her voice barely audible over the quiet hum of the cafe. Mark reached out, his hand brushing hers. "Neither of us wanted it to be like this, but you can't keep living a lie, Anna." She looked at him, torn between the life she had and the life she longed for. "I'm trapped." Mark squeezed her hand. "Then let me help you find the way out." Chapter 3. Cracks in the Marriage. Back at home, David sat alone in the living room, staring at the empty space where Anna usually sat beside him. The house felt colder tonight, the silence louder than usual. He reached for his phone, scrolling through old pictures of happier times, smiling faces, family vacations, laughter frozen in pixels. A knot tightened in his stomach. Something was wrong. He could feel it in the way Anna avoided his eyes, the way her phone buzzed too often, the way she slipped out at odd hours. But every time he asked, she smiled and said, "I'm just tired." David wanted to believe her. He wanted to trust the woman he had loved for so long, but the doubts gnawed at him, eating away at the foundation of their marriage. The next morning, David left for work with a heavy heart, unaware that Anna's world was about to collide with his in ways neither could imagine. Chapter 4. The Breaking Point. The days blurred into weeks. Anna's double life stretched on like a fragile thread ready to snap. She lived in a constant haze of guilt and yearning, caught between the safety of her family and the intoxicating freedom she found with Mark. One afternoon, David returned home early from work. The house was unusually quiet. As he stepped inside, he noticed a strange scent lingering in the air, a mix of perfume and something unfamiliar. His heart pounded as he moved toward the living room. On the coffee table lay a small envelope. David picked it up with trembling hands and pulled out the note inside. "I'm sorry, I never meant to hurt you." The words hit him like a blow. Suddenly, The suspicions he had buried deep inside erupted into a painful certainty. At that moment, Anna walked through the door, her face pale and eyes filled with tears. The truth she had hidden for so long was about to surface, shattering the fragile world they had built together. Chapter 5: Confrontation. David stood frozen as Anna entered the room. The note in his hand was a silent accusation, a confession he never wanted to read, but now couldn't ignore. His eyes searched hers, looking for an explanation, a reason, anything to make sense of the betrayal. "Anna," he said softly, his voice cracking. "Why?" Tears welled up in her eyes. I never wanted to hurt you, David. It just happened. I felt so alone, so invisible. You were always busy, distant. And then Mark came." David shook his head, disbelief mixing with heartbreak. "So you cheated because you felt lonely?" She nodded, unable to speak through the weight of her guilt. The silence between them stretched long and painful. David's mind raced. Anger, sorrow, confusion, all tangled in a storm of emotions. He wanted to yell, to scream, but all he could do was stare at the woman he once trusted, now a stranger. "I need time," he finally whispered. "I don't know if I can forgive this." Anna nodded, her tears falling freely now. "I understand." Chapter 6: The Aftermath. Days after the confrontation were filled with heavy silence. Anna and David lived under the same roof, but felt worlds apart. The children sensed the tension, their innocent questions and quiet worries adding weight to every room. David threw himself into work, desperate to escape the pain at home. Anna stayed up late, staring at the ceiling, haunted by regret. Both wrestled with the shattered pieces of their marriage, unsure how or if they could ever put them back together. One evening, David came home earlier than usual. He found Anna sitting on the couch, clutching a worn photo album. Without a word, he sat beside her. Slowly, they began to talk about their fears, their loneliness, the love they once shared. It was the first real conversation they had had in months. It didn't fix everything, but it was a start. Chapter 7: A Fragile Hope. Weeks passed and David and Anna began attending marriage counseling. The sessions were painful, forcing them to confront their failures and fears. But slowly, they started to understand each other again. Anna learned to open up about her loneliness, and David began to listen, really listen, for the first time in years. They shared memories, regrets, and hopes for the future. Though the road was rocky, a fragile hope began to bloom between them. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. One night as they sat together watching their children play in the yard, Anna reached for David's hand. He hesitated, then squeezed it gently. Maybe, just maybe, they could find their way back. Chapter 8: Shadows of the Past. Despite the small steps forward, the shadow of Anna's betrayal lingered. David found himself waking in the night, haunted by images of Mark, the man who had stolen his wife's trust. Anna, too, battled with guilt. She wanted to prove her commitment, but sometimes her past choices felt like chains holding her back. One afternoon, David unexpectedly bumped into Mark at a local store. Their eyes met briefly, tension thick in the air. David's fists clenched, but he forced himself to walk away, deciding to focus on rebuilding his marriage instead of fueling anger. Back home, David and Anna had a quiet dinner, both aware that healing wasn't just about forgiving, but also forgetting, and forgetting was the hardest part. Chapter 9: Trust Rebuilt. Months rolled by with small victories and setbacks. Anna kept showing up, not just physically, but emotionally. She stopped hiding her phone, shared her day, and made efforts to reconnect with David. David, in turn, practiced patience. His heart still ached, but he chose to believe in Anna's sincerity. Together, they built new routines, went on small trips, and even laughed again. One evening, after putting their kids to bed, David looked at Anna and said, "I don't know if we're completely healed yet, but I want to try. For us. Anna smiled through tears. Me too. Their journey was far from over, but for the first time in a long time, hope felt possible. Chapter 10. New Beginnings. The seasons changed, and with them, Anna and David's marriage slowly transformed. The wounds didn't vanish overnight, but they learned to live with scars, marks of pain and growth. Their family dinners became filled with genuine conversation. The kids noticed the change too, feeling the warmth return to their home. One quiet evening, David took Anna's hand and said, "We survived the storm. Now let's build something stronger." Anna nodded, hope shining in her eyes. Together. In the end, their story was not about betrayal alone, but about forgiveness, resilience, and the difficult beauty of starting over.